Welcome to the wonderful world of Ghost Horse Hollow. I'm your host, Severn Williamson, and this is My Family Book Nook. My Family Book Nook podcast is brought to you by the Owsley County Public Library in Boonville, Kentucky, and by Jackson Energy, a Touchstone Energy cooperative, and by Ghost Horse Gifts, featuring the fine intaglio jewelry and gemstone sculpture of artisan Jack Williamson, on the web at www.etsy.com/shop/ghosthorse-gifts. My Family Book Nook features the saga of the MacKennon homesteaders 100 years in the future in the Appalachian Wilderness. Listeners may wish to follow along in the fairy lore of Ghost Horse Hollow, available on Amazon Books and Kindle Readers, starting with Book 1, Turn of the Blade. My Family Book Nook also shares stories, myths, and legends from around the globe in support of world literacy, conservation, and cultural exchange. And now for our ongoing adventure from the fairy lore of Ghost Horse Hollow. We left off in Ghost Horse Hollow with the country dinner about to begin. The homesteaders are assembling after the dinner bell has been rung. Panther MacKennon is in the parlor. Chapter 4. The Ponies and the Hounds. The evening star tipped the horizon just as the waxing moon appeared above the first hill of Denderon. Aaron Ray carefully latched the garden gate behind him. It was a necessary routine on any farm. The metal worker beckoned to White Hand to hurry on, and Jonas responded by waving a rope halter in the air and turning to his last chore of filling the water troughs. Aaron looked around for bugle and bell, but the blue tick hounds had already nudged their way past the gate and reached the front porch. With a clash and dash of his jet-colored wings, Pelly the crow escaped out the kitchen window and communicated briefly with the dogs. The bird then flew in the direction of the clothesline in the side yard and headed toward the chicken coop to gossip with Bottom the Rooster. By the time the hounds had flopped down beneath the front porch swing, Pelbert had returned triumphantly and slipped back inside. "Panther! Addie! The bell's been rung twice now, girls," Hannah called as she followed the lilting notes coming from the antique pipe organ in the parlor. Lady MacKennon smiled tenderly. The melodies that tumbled down the wide front hall were hauntingly beautiful. They were reminiscent of old fairy tunes which Glowgold had been teaching the girls all afternoon. He flitted from one daughter to the next, humming in their ears and waving his wand in time to the music. Hannah fondly remembered when Glowgold had begun teaching her the same melodies when she was but 6 years of age. How she loved the fancy organ with its beveled glass panels and creaky embroidered bench seat. Panther and Addie were presently taking turns at pumping the stiff pedals while giving each other a chance to play the instrument's worn ivory keys. The household light fairy was singing with gusto. "A fairy's night is a wondrous flight of moonbeams and of shadows." The two girls repeated the same line in perfect harmony. Hannah, standing in the parlor doorway, added a third soprano part as their winged leader began the spirited chorus. "Oh, sing-a-ling, sing, a ring-a-ding-ding, a fairy night so fair. Oh, bell-a-dell-dell, for all is well, and we never a care." "Bravo, my little fireflies! Well done, my pumpkin seeds! You both are much improved. But it is time for food and drink. Your mother awaits you. I shall go and light the candles." Glowgold spun upward and twirled his glittering wand. His transparent golden wings pulsed with delight. He returned dutifully to lead 7-year-old Addie from the next room, for the youngest member of the farm family was blind. "I'll help with Sissy, Glowgold," Panther spoke up. Though she knew her little sister could negotiate the homestead's halls without any prompting, Addie had developed a keen sense of hearing and the ability to count her steps from one threshold to the next. Still, the whole family looked out for her, believing she had already suffered far too much. Adeline MacKennon had contracted an unknown disease when she was but 3 years of age. Many of the children in the eastern woodlands had wrestled with the virus's deadly fury. All of Hannah's and Morning Sky's herbal medicines had been unable to save the little girl's sight, though they had saved her life. Jake suspected that the contagious virus had leaked from a rusty barrel stored in an abandoned laboratory. The Starlight Fairies, who specialized in healing plants, were confounded by the disease and unable to provide a cure. The sickness wandered relentlessly through the human body, from organ to organ without logic. Morning Sky had concluded that only a scientist without a conscience would have created such a problem for others to deal with. Lila thought germ warfare to be an act of absolute madness, for she knew that illnesses such as the one which had destroyed Addie's eyes could never be successfully contained. As Addie slowly recovered, the medicine woman had prayed for the return of health and balance for all Earth's children. Sir Finnias Glowgold told the grieving mother to keep her chin up. She would personally see to it that Addie be trained as a treasured fairy bard. She already displayed an uncommon love for music and poetry. Let the loss of her fair blue eyes be her payment for remarkable abilities yet to come. This explained the girl's regular music lessons from a fairy who frequently complained that children were messy, loud, and rude. Glowgold had experienced a change of heart in Miss Adeline's trusting presence. Perhaps one day the royal Starlight Fairy bard, Thruka Denal, would visit with his 2 harmony maidens, Lady Hummy and Lady Lindelin, to hear young Addie sing. Once inside the kitchen, the MacKennon's youngest daughter found her place at the crowded table beside her mother's chair. The carved pony heads turned toward Adeline and neighed in greeting. Jake had completed the chairs before he realized that the materials had come from the enchanted maple grove not far from Grandfather Mountain. Three-Toe the bear simply said that he had found the wood somewhere in the forest. The unforeseen result was that all the sculptures in the hollow were capable of coming to life whenever they pleased. It took some getting used to, but the MacKennons were delighted in the long run. Addie reached up to pet the well-polished wooden noses and quickly climbed onto the log bench that stretched the length of the dinner table. Hannah and Lila Morning Sky reached out to clasp her searching hands. Panther squeezed onto the bench farther down the table, between White Hand and Eli. Her long hair, slightly darker in hue than her mother's, was still pinned up in delicate braids. Panther had a passion for running and climbing trees, and did not want her hair to interfere with her speed. Slender, strong fingers and the posture of a princess brought her much attention, as did her eyes, which changed with the color of the sky. They looked at the world with both wonder and amusement. Panther had laughter for breakfast. Her exuberance only partially explained why everyone loved her so dearly. The other factor was her heart, which embraced the poorest of folks as royalty and the weakest of souls as kin. "Good evening, Eli. Good evening, White Hand," Panther said in greeting. Both men nodded with respect. Somehow Panther had inherited both of her parents' keen intellect and their combined magical abilities, as well as their courage and compassion. She stood among the adults as an equal, with her soft lilac sweater tucked inside a pair of faded blue corduroy pants and a rugged belt. The buttons on her clothing were made from flattened old coins. A stranger would never have suspected that she spoke 3 fairy languages, including ancient fairy scroll, the more contemporary fairy brogue, and the heraldry of kings. This difficult tongue was revealed only to a human child capable of surviving a rigorous apprenticeship with the Starlight Fairy Queen. Few were chosen to attempt the study program, and fewer still returned from the wild woods with their sanity intact. But Panther had survived 6 demanding years under Lady Titrymia's tutelage, returning home each afternoon with clear eyes, penetrating and wise. Eli and White Hand, as tough as they were, knew Panther could handle herself in a tussle. Fairy combat training was not for the faint of heart, and the young teen had mastered the rapier, willow switches, dragon daggers, throwing stars, whip-poor-will, and defendo, the dangerous art of hand-to-wing survival. Only in the 7th and final year, Panther had been forced to continue her studies solely with Glowgold. The household light fairy had volunteered to fill in for the fairy queen and her royal court, because Titrimia had chosen to return suddenly to the land of dreams and whispers, a cloudy realm where fairies dwelt when not upon the earth. Titrimia's decision had rocked the fairylands, for the Starlight Queen's 1,000-year reign was not yet over. No one understood the reason for her early disappearance. To add to the mystery, Glowgold had been very reluctant to discuss the matter. By the time the two girls reached the dinner table, everyone else had gathered for the evening prayer before the bountiful meal. 10 pairs of hands clasped together in thanksgiving and loyalty, including those of the 2 children, their mother and father, White Hand, Morning Sky, Alma Barter, Aaron Ray, Gracie Farrow, and Cousin Eli. The companionship of the evening meal was traditional and important. Breakfast and lunch were served on the heavy sideboard for each person to grab, according to what their daily chores would allow. Supper time, however, was a community event which afforded everyone an opportunity to exchange the daily news. "Glowgold, I do believe that it is your turn to say the blessing," Hannah prompted. The household light fairy looked most pleased, as the family bent their heads with respect. Jake and Hannah encouraged every member of Ghost Horse Hollow to express their unique faith without ridicule. There were so many different beliefs represented within the group that it was necessary to honor the various concepts of the Creator by taking turns in leading prayers and ceremonies. This evening Glowgold selected a more conservative speech as he awakened each bayberry candle in the center of the table with a dash of his wand. "O Lady Titrimia, blessed Fairy Queen, and O Lord Accolon, beloved Fairy King, we are most humbly grateful for these fruits of the vine and flowers of the field," the fairy droned on with a smug expression. "Keep us ever mindful of your dance of balance and melody of mysteries, O abundant ones." "How kind of you to keep it short this evening," said Alma. As a school teacher, she had long ago abandoned flowery speeches. "These young'uns can't wait around for their supper to get cold. Pass the mashed potatoes, if you please, Mr. Ray. Not till I get my share, Miss Barter. They are just dripping with butter. Yum, 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 yum." Aaron made a hungry sound and scooped a mound of creamy potatoes onto his blue and white china plate before passing the wooden bowl to Alma. This initial sharing started a crisscrossing of platters, baskets, and serving dishes, with much clinking and plopping and spooning from the entire crowd. No one ever went hungry in the hollow, due to Hannah and Jake's careful management of the land and their utmost reverence for the natural world. "Well, what's the news?" Alma began, holding a large fluffy biscuit in her hand. "Eli, did you make it all the way to Piney Grove like you was a-going to?" All the knives and forks at the table froze in mid-air. Piney Grove was many miles away, down Curvy Creek Road. It was not often that a member of Ghost Horse Hollow set out for the post office and general store, known as the Possum's Trading Post, and returned the same day. "I surely did, Miss Barter." "What?" Eli looked around the table at the wide eyes and open mouths. "I done told you, Ravenwood is special. That colt can fly. Now I got 2 letters right here in my pocket." Eli hastily produced the unexpected mail. The teenager reached across the cornbread to deliver 1 crumpled blue envelope to the retired school teacher and 1 small brown envelope to Jonas Whitehand. Everyone knew that the blue letter was one from Alma's beaux, Mr. G.J. Trotter of Turkeyfoot Junction, who wrote to the schoolmarm upon occasion. He complained regularly about his arthritis and bunions. Alma seemed a bit disappointed with her love letter as she glanced over the wrinkled paper. "I'll just read this a bit later," Miss Barter smiled discreetly. "I do believe Mr. Trotter's foot ailments can wait. Now, what have you got there, White Hand?" The second delivery intrigued the entire family, for Jonas had never received a letter before. White Hand hesitantly passed his envelope to Panther. The expert bowman was illiterate, for his schooling had been limited to the woodlands. Panther had agreed to teach White Hand to read in exchange for learning to speak his native language, for now he needed her help. Graciously she opened the small packet and unfolded a yellow slip of paper, which had been hastily torn from a larger sheet and covered with green plant juice ink. Panther was careful not to smudge the faint, childlike lettering. She cleared her throat, sat up straight, and read aloud. "Grandfather, I come to you. My mother says I belong with you. I wish to learn the old ways. I will wait for you in the Valley of the Drums, near the hidden cave of our ancestors. I will come before the moon when deer sheds his antlers. Please do not be angry with me. I would walk all the way to you, but I do not know the way. By the time this letter reaches you, I will have begun my journey. My stepfather will not keep me. I am afraid of him. He says I see too much. Forever yours, Salina Little Dove." This part of my Family Book Nook podcast is dedicated to world conservation. Everyone can make a difference by restoring the world's forests, conserving energy, recycling, developing and sharing green technologies, farming organically, preserving wilderness, and protecting our pollinators. To live in harmony with the earth is to respect the sacred hoop of life. And now our adventure continues. In the polite but awkward silence that followed, Panther noticed that the hounds on the back of her father's chair had pricked up their ears and leaned forward. Other than this unintentional display of concern, MacKennon's reaction to the letter was casual. The farmer scratched his chin. Jake's wooden dogs always reflected his hidden emotions, just as the carved ponies displayed Hannah's passionate moods. The tops of Lady MacKennon's chair pointed their sleek, pretty noses toward one another. The ponies' necks arched in graceful question marks. Panther's mother passed the blackberry jelly over to Addie and helped her younger daughter with the sticky serving spoon. Everyone else continued eating quietly, except for Lila Morning Sky, who mumbled something about cast-off seeds returning to the cinder. Panther squirmed in her seat with excitement. "What hidden cave?" she asked aloud, shaking off the collective tension like a wet dog. "It is a forgotten site that was once sacred to the people," White Hand explained slowly. "From deep inside a limestone cavern, clear water gushes out of an underground spring. Medicine elders from many tribes are buried in the shelves of rock and in the open fields nearby. The grasslands are called the Valley of the Drums. The entranceway is hard to find, so buffalo still graze there as they did long ago. A group of young hunters, boys and girls of Panther's age, known as the Wolf Society, have recently spotted a white buffalo calf in this valley. The white buffalo is considered to be a most sacred creature by all native tribes. It is a sign that balance is returning to our world." Lila Morning Sky cleared her throat and added to the mystery of her brother's explanation. "Tell Panther more about the history of the spring, White Hand. She should know of its power." "The spring is deep beyond measure," the warrior continued with his arms crossed in front of his chest, as if he were protecting his heart. "Long ago, when the stars were bright in the night sky, a brave swimmer named Yellow Otter dove into the spring to help find its depth. He never returned. It is said his spirit guards the cave, and that his medicine bundle is still lodged inside. It is also said that this medicine bundle contains great wisdom to heal the earth." Jonas finished with a worried glance at his elder sister. Panther tingled with curiosity. Lila and Jonas were concealing something. Perhaps Yellow Otter's medicine bundle was too special to discuss out loud. The Besides, she only knew of 2 other magic springs. One was Elven Falls, where a magnificent brook cascaded down a series of flat limestones. The Fairy Queen had been very cautious when talking about this watercourse, and had refused to visit the wondrous place. Seldom would Titrimia and her fairy maidens play near such a source of unbridled enchantment. Panther was also familiar with the Well of Briga, in the northeast corner of the fairylands. This icy fountain was famous for its restorative waters, a fluid so pure and vital that it cured any illness, even old age and fairy freezing spells, though few had ever been able to capture a drop of the precious liquid. But Panther had never heard of a sacred spring inside a cave that housed buried shamans. "But the moon, when deer sheds its antlers, is so soon." The girl looked pleadingly from one end of the table to the other. Both Hannah and Jake immediately sensed that their daughter wished to accompany White Hand to find Salina Little Dove. Panther had already guessed correctly that her parents would be quite willing to rescue a desperate child. "Will wonders never cease?" Hannah responded to Panther's unspoken request. "Looks like the girls are finally going to have a friend to play with. I know this hollow gets mighty lonesome. I suppose Panther will want to ride in the wagon to fetch Salina." Hannah passed the gravy to Eli with a gesture for him to save some for the others. "Jonas, just how old is your granddaughter?" "Little Dove is entering her 15th year. She was born in the moon of falling leaves." White Hand stared at his dinner plate. He seemed troubled and unwilling to say more. Morning Sky cleared her throat once more and began removing the dirty dishes from the table. Gracie quietly joined the medicine woman in clearing the main course away and replacing it with spicy peach pie, blackberry cobbler, and apple dumplings. "Jonas bears no love for Salina's stepfather," Lila began in a serious tone as she placed a slice of pie in front of her brother. "Valente does not honor the wild creatures that he hunts. He sells the teeth, horns, and hides, but he does not eat the meat or use the bones. He shows little respect for Salina's mother as well. Tita has never been treated as an equal. He is violent in his home, like an angry badger. This has troubled White Hand and our family for many years." Morning Sky clicked her tongue to encourage Pelbert to hop onto Addie's shoulder. The little girl smiled and held up a bite of flaky crust for the bird to peck. Hannah, for once, was allowing the crow to eat at the table. She was too busy making a wordless decision with her husband. Lady MacKennon looked expectantly at the far end of the table. Jake leaned back in his chair and winked at his wife. "We must make a place for Salina in the old log cabin with Jonas and Lila. She can move into the empty storeroom under the sleeping loft," Hannah announced cheerfully. "I'll bring in the old sleigh bed, a nice rocking chair, and a wash basin. That storeroom has a lovely bay window. We would all be pleased to have her on the farm. Ain't that right, Jake?" "Salina Little Dove would be most welcome," MacKennon offered aloud. Panther's father glanced at his eldest daughter's eager expression. "Yep, you can go with White Hand, if'n you promise to behave yourself, and if'n it's all right with Hannah." Lady MacKennon gave Panther one of her special twinkling grins. The whole family began talking at once. Such was their joy in anticipating another voice in Ghost Horse Hollow. The homesteaders did not hear the screen door slam as Bottom the Rooster strutted in. The chicken made his way toward the talkative table and crowed, announcing his presence. Everyone observed that Bottom had immaculately preened his tail feathers and polished his leg spurs with beeswax. The rooster approached Jake MacKinnon's chair with the air of a proud soldier reporting for duty. "Ready for battle, sir." Bottom lifted one of his bright yellow legs in a stiff salute. The great effort tilted the rooster off balance. He fell sideways with an awkward squawk, battling his wings. Miss Gracie leaned over politely and helped Bottom to his toes. She tried not to laugh at his disgrace, but could not help giggling into her napkin. Cousin Eli nudged her with his elbow and made a flapping gesture, and the 2 teenagers burst into laughter. Hannah thought it was good to see Gracie brighten, for the girl's mood these past few months had been nothing but tragic. Alma Barter was on top of the situation in a heartbeat, forever playing the lively matchmaker. "Bless my buttons, you 2 puppies can help me with the dishes later on," the retired school teacher said, widening her eyes with curiosity. Black Bottom, tell us all about this battle. Are you going fighting down at the Wish-Wash Cafe again? Are the raccoons having another contest with the all-you-can-eat crawdads as the prize?" Alma's question caught MacKennon off guard. He turned suddenly toward the chicken with a warning glance, but Black Bottom was too fluffed up with self-importance to notice. "Madam, I am joining the team of warriors attending Master Jake, our brave farmer. We are to face grave and terrible dangers this night at the Dead Oak Tree, where Tormac and the Coyote King await us," the rooster replied gallantly. "Pelbert the Crow has informed the barnyard that a certain young lady, namely Miss Genevieve of the Honey Hair, is to serve the party of valiant but foolhardy warriors as an interpreter. This is a fact which Pelbert the Crow received from very reliable sources. Bugle and Bell, the esteemed hounds of Master Aaron Ray." Pelbert let out a squeaky whistle and hid within the folds of Morning Sky's loose shawl. Hannah gasped in stunned surprise. Jake threw a hunk of cornbread at the rooster's head, but Black Bottom quickly ducked and popped his wings. "I guess Jake ain't told her yet," Aaron said as he looked intently at White Hand. Both men artfully excused themselves from the table to continue their evening chores. The dishes suddenly needed washing badly by several people, and Panther thought it was a most excellent idea to pour her little sister a bath. Within a few minutes, the long benches on either side of the trestle table were empty. Hannah and Jake, whose ponies and hounds were alternately neighing and barking, stood stubbornly facing one another down the length of the cluttered table. As Panther slipped out of the kitchen with Addie by her side and Glowgold flitting along beside, she wondered what Black Bottom had meant about her serving as an interpreter for Tormac. She had never met the Autumn Fairy Prince. Now her wind-sight visions from earlier that day were beginning to make sense. The Starlight Fairy Queen had disliked her third son's volatile temper and had rarely allowed him to address the royal court. Panther decided to put her sister to bed as soon as possible and then listen to her parents' heated conversation from the top of the stairs in the front hall. Hannah and Jake rarely fought, except upon occasion when they had a significant difference of opinion. Tonight's disagreement promised to be a doozy. "Come along, Glowgold," Panther whispered. "I don't want to miss this." "By the sound of it, my little firefly, no one will miss this fight. I shall see to Miss Adeline's bath and put her to bed for you. Meet you on the stairs." "Why can't I stay up and listen?" Addie complained to her favorite fairy. "You are entirely too young for such an altercation," said Sir Finnias, waving his wand. While Glowgold went on to explain the meaning of altercation to Addie and whisk her into a bubble bath, Panther took her place at the top of the first flight of stairs in the MacKennon home. Already sparks were flying around the corner of the hall below. The girl could distinctly hear the rooster trying to fit inside her mother's cookie jar, as was his usual habit during a quarrel of any sort. She heard the jar crash to the floor. A befuddled black chicken wandered out of the kitchen. "Up here," Panther whispered loudly. "Coming, Miss Genevieve," Black Bottom responded amiably. Panther grinned, remembering how her feathered friend was afraid of all cats, let alone big ones. "You did say Tormac and the Coyote King?" she inquired. "Indeed, Miss Genevieve, your skills are needed, and much adventure is in store for us. But first, we must await the outcome of the Battle of the Ponies and the Hounds." Thank you for listening to my Family Book Nook podcast. Subscribe to our blog at myfamilybooknook.blogspot.com and follow us on Facebook, Pinterest, and YouTube at Ghost Horse Hollow and Ghost Horse Gift Gallery. To advertise with my Family Book Nook, contact Podbean's Pod Ads program for more information. Join us each Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Time USA for another episode in the exciting saga of the MacKennon homesteaders, as well as stories from around the globe. Podbean.com podcasts are available through a convenient app on your PC, tablet, or cell phone. Listen anytime. We appreciate your sharing My Family Book Nook episodes with your friends and family on social media. Watch it grow. Special thanks to the lovely Price Sisters on the web at thepricesisters.com for our closing music. Follow me on Instagram _ghost_horse. This is Anne Severn Williamson, and it's been a pleasure